scholar and a faculty at Delhi University, along with Siddharth, who is also faculty at Ahmedabad University and MSR Pedges Scholar. Welcome you all on behalf of MSR Planning Committee. Ben is also a member at MSR Planning Committee and a very good friend of mine. So this session is on AI and humanistic management, moderated by Ben, Professor Ben, who is a professor of business ethics and a panelist member also. And we also have other panelist member, Professor Caleb from California State University, and Professor Fabrizio from LUMSA University. So welcome you all. So before we begin, we may have a short meditation session as a ritual in our MSR. So I will take your permission to move on. So please find a comfortable position and you may gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath and simply become aware of your breathing. Inhale. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. As you inhale, the whole air is coming out of your body, nurturing you. As you exhale, the whole air, the warm air, is leaving your body. Feel it. It releases all tensions, worries, problems, any negative thought that you may have. Just relaxing you. Feel your feet connecting with the earth. Feel the surface. Your shoulders sinking down. Feel your neck relaxed. Your forehead, your eyes, your ears, all relaxed. Relax all the muscles in your neck. Come back to the breath. Your attention back to your breath. With every exhale, you allow all of your tensions melt away from your shoulders, neck, ears, eyes. Be in the present moment. Enjoy it. Letting go all of your worries and tensions this way. That relaxes you. Enjoy this feeling. Makes you cultivated and at inner peace. Now the safe place to come back. Whenever you want, you may gently open your eyes and come back here. Thank you so much. Now over to you, Ben. You can start your session.
Thank you, Anita, and welcome to our participants for joining us for this 7th session of the Research Colloquium. Our session title is AI and Humanistic Management, I will be your moderator and one of the panelists. I'm Ben Teehankee from the Salle University in Manila, the Philippines. And I am joined by my co-panelist, Professor Bernacchio from California State University, whom I will ask to introduce himself later. Also by Professor Fabrizio Maimone of Università LUMSA, Italy. By way of perspective for this session, 2 years ago, we had an article in the Humanistic Management Journal on master and slave, reflecting on the relationship of AI with humans, especially in the workplace. And I collaborated with several authors on this article, including Fabrizio. And based on that, we also issued a call for a special issue of the Humanistic Management Journal on human flourishing, digital transformation, and the fourth industrial revolution. So when the MSR Research Colloquium came to be, we thought it was very important to include humanistic management and AI as one of the session topics. So we do welcome you and we thank you for your interest in this session. We believe a lot of the conversations on AI touch on many important things, but we don't want to miss its impact on the way humans will flourish, especially in the workplace. So my research interest has always been in corporate governance and ethics and the interplay with leadership. And in particular, with respect to AI, I'm very interested in how AI can be a catalyst for building more humane workplaces. Thus, our title for our session. I'd like this opportunity to invite our co-panelists to self-introduce themselves. May I give the floor to Caleb, who's already here, and also then to be followed by Fabrizio for a short self-introduction. Caleb?
Yeah, hi. I'm Caleb Bernacchio. We say you're correct. Actually, Bernacchio is the proper, but of course we have the anglicized version of. Yeah, so I'm an assistant professor of management and ethics at California State University in Monterey Bay, and yeah, my research broadly kind of focuses on for business ethics, especially kind of neo-Aristotelian approaches, and really as they intersect strategy and organization theory. So I kind of have an ongoing project on AI that's kind of directly related to my my presentation today. So yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's a really great to be here.
Pleasure to have you with us, Caleb. So I'm looking forward to a very good discussion with you. And now I ask Fabrizio to also self-introduce. Fabrizio?
Hi, Ben. Hi, all. How are you doing? I'm sorry for my voice, but it's...
Have you been singing?
So, yeah, a little bit. So maybe I will recover my voice later. So I'm Fabrizio Maimone from Rome, Italy. I am Associate Professor of Organization Studies at LUMSA University in Rome. I'm involved in different areas of research, but particularly I'm interested in the impact of digital transformation and the use of AI in the organizational setting and in the workplace, and its relationship with people well-being, with the human side of digital transformation, and also from a humanistic management perspective. So, dear Ben, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be with you sharing this very exciting, interesting event.
Thank you, Fabrizio, again. Thank you, Caleb, for joining our panel. And to our participants, we want to, and we see some familiar faces. Welcome, Jyoti. Thank you for joining us. One of my co-conspirators in the humanistic management field. We're also seeing some familiar names in the chat. Now, of course, we want to engage our participants early on, so we'll just put an informal chat survey, and you're free to give any input as you see fit. We ask our participants, what are your thoughts? And this can be very short. What are your thoughts or questions about AI and making workplaces more humane? So we'd like to know your initial thoughts on this. And our presenters can also build on what you say here or respond to them later. You can also tell us a little bit in the chat from where you are in the country. And by the way, Anita has been putting the most important thing. We want your feedback at the end of our session through the online survey. But for now, let's think about our chat question. Hello, Isa. How's everything down under?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's very cold.
Yes, that's right. It's the middle of winter, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you use, let me see, I'm guessing what your nickname would be. Would it be Dora, or is that a bad guess?
No, I usually accept Theodora.
Theodora, all right,
Yeah.
Theodora.
Yeah.
Which part of Australia are you from?
Western, Perth.
Perth, right, up
Yeah.
west. So you may share your thoughts on on humane workplaces in AI.
I am not sure about the humane and AI, so that's the thing, because still we don't know the dangers of this. It might be excellent for some prospects, but if we use it too much, it might be inhumane. So that's my take on it. Let me hear what will happen now in this session, and then I might change my mind. I don't know.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's very important to our conversation. We really want humans to be involved in this conversation. I would say 80% of the conversations around AI has been from the technology people. And I think it's very important that the humanists, management people, philosophers join the conversation. Thank you, Jyoti, for sharing your thoughts in the chat. Whether humans are training AI or AI training humans. Okay, I think that's a very interesting question, and we will respond to that during our conversations. Okay, so thank you for sharing your thoughts. At this stage, let me just give an overview of how we're gonna do. Oh, there you go. Pamela is doing her doctorate at Case Western. Hello, Pamela.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right, so what we'll do is each of the panelists will speak for 15 minutes, and we allow you to put your live reactions in the chat as well as your questions as the talks are going on. And the presenters can actually choose to engage your questions already live. No need to wait for the end of the 15 minutes, but we will also reserve time in the general question and answer forum at the end of the 3 talks to tackle all the questions and thoughts in the chat. And you may also share new thoughts as well. So without further ado, we'll give Fabrizio his 15 minutes and allow him to share. Fabrizio, I failed to ask, are you presenting slides? You're on mute.
Yes, yes, I'm presenting slides.
All right, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, have you shared the screen?
Anita, you may have to authorize Fabrizio. I don't think he is co-host.
Oh, sorry. So yeah. I have to share my screen, but I don't know.
Siddhartha, is Fabrizio authorized?
We'll have to make him a co-host. I'll just.
I made him.
All right, you're now co-host, Fabrizio. Take a look.
So now I can share
All right.
with you. Oh yes, oh yes.
And Caleb will share as well later.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Okay, now maybe you all can see the slides.
We can.
Okay, okay. What I'm going to present just a brief overview on the work in progress concerning my research on the relationship between humanistic management and AI. My title is A New Research Frontier or Mere Utopia. Let's see why and this title. Okay, very briefly, just a few points for the agenda. What's artificial intelligence? Because we need to agree on the meaning of artificial intelligence, because everybody talk about artificial intelligence, but there is no a common shared definition. What are the limitations? What are the risks of using AI in the workplace? And then let's try to find out a bridge between artificial intelligence and human intelligence. So why some kind of collaboration is important for the effective development of AI in the workplace. Why it is possible to conceive a new area of research concerning the relation between AI and humanistic management, and then I will try to give a few suggestions for future research. So we know that one of the first definition of artificial intelligence is the classic one. Artificial intelligence is the ability of machines to understand, think, and learn in a similar way to human beings, indicating the possibility of use of computers to simulate human intelligence. It is a very old definition. At the beginning of the second half of last century, many computer scientists and many researchers on the field of cognitive sciences and managerial sciences was convinced that human brain and computer could be very similar, and that computers could replace human thought. Now things are a little bit different. Many researchers are not are no longer convinced that human brain work like a computer. And anyway, we don't know what human intelligence is. So it's also very difficult to define artificial intelligence and to, how can I say, create something that can imitate the human brain. But if we have to take a definition, just to understand what are we talking about, maybe this one could be useful. I'm not a technician, I'm not an engineer, so obviously my approach is the view of an organization studies scholar who is interested in understanding something more. So artificial intelligence system, according to the definition, are software and hardware systems designed by humans that, given a complex goal, act in physical or digital dimensions by perceiving their environment through data acquisition, interpreting the collected structured or unstructured data, reasoning on the knowledge or processing information derived from this data, and deciding the best actions to take to achieve the given goal, etc., etc. It's important to understand that when we are referring to AI, very generally speaking, we simply refer to the so-called narrow AI or weak AI. It is some kind of digital tools designed to perform a specific tasks or a limited range of tasks. General AI, that is something like a new form of intelligence, or super AI, it's something really theoretical that something, the super AI is something that even more intelligent than human beings. They are still at the theoretical stage, and therefore, generally speaking, when we use the expression AI, we are referring to some kind of digital machines that are performing some specific tasks. So maybe we are still far from the rising of the so-called singularity, the moment in which AI will be a threat for the humankind. So, but why it is important to understand that the human approach to AI, not only in the workplace, is important. Let's start from a simple observation. AI is not super powerful. AI has a lot of limitations. No? Humans have intuition, creativity, judgment, common sense, can anticipating things, can anticipate in some way the future. Humans are not depending from externally provided data. It can focus their attention on something that it is not included in a data set. Then we know that artificial intelligence tools aim to map a relationship between output and input variables using a training data set. But for this reason, it's very difficult to generalize their analysis or their solution beyond the dominion of the same data set. Moreover, many global problems, but also simple problems, for example, to understand how to handle with a very difficult collaborator are typical of complex problems. Complex problems are very difficult to be predicted. And in this case, also AI may show huge limitations. Please consider the example of COVID-19 pandemics. Maybe AI contributed to the development of the vaccine, but AI was not able to predict the patterns of behaviors of the pandemics. And therefore, maybe a cooperation between human intelligence and artificial intelligence is necessary. Maybe it's not true that AI simply will replace human workers, but maybe a cooperation is necessary in order to find out some kind of synergy between humans and artificial intelligence. As we know, this issue is fundamental if you are referring to the workplace. There are so many applications of AI in the field of, for example, HR management. AI algorithms may be used to make a selection of curricula for job posting. They can use the banking in order to make a first selection of clients, refer the request of mortgage or something like that. In manufacturing and so on, we know that digital transformation is based on the massive use of AI and big data analytic tools, sensor and so on, in order to transform a traditional factory in a smart factory. But at the same time, we can find several risks related to the development of AI in the workplace. There are, of course, ethical risks. There is a matter related to inequality. There is a matter related to diversity. There is a matter related to AI digital divide, because to use to understand the contribution given by digital tools, it's necessary to have some knowledge, and there could be a divide between who possess some knowledge and who not. And also we are referring to asymmetries of power, because who has the technology and the knowledge as the knowledge has also the power, is considered the influence of some kind of big data analytics tools, for example, in the political arena. No? So generally speaking, it is possible to say that AI could facilitate the further development of inequalities. Who have the technologies, who have the knowledge, who have the money, who have the infrastructures, may get an advantage respect who has not any of them. And this is also true in the field of organizational systems. It's also true in the workplace. Then there are a few aspects that are, in my opinion, specific for the workplace. Loss of control, as Joyty noticed before, are humans controlling machines, or are machines controlling humans? Lack of transparency, because we know that many such kind of technologies are characterized by the so-called black box phenomenon. It means that we know what are the responses given by the machines, but we don't know why the machines proposed a specific patterns to explain something, why they provided a specific solution to a certain problem. There could be also negative impact of the development of AI on people's well-being and emotional climate. a loss of meaning of work, because if you lose your power, there could be a problem related to the empowerment of people, and that this could affect also the meaning of work, also maybe also the level of people's engagement. And then there is the problem of self-referentiality, because anyway, even though they are open system, but they are anyway some cognitive or computational systems. So the risk is that they find out the best solution, respect the premises, the training, and so on. But this solution could be not the best solution for people, for humans, for organization, for society. And so I don't know how many minutes.
We can wrap up in 2 minutes, Fabrizio.
Okay, 2 minutes. Yes, I'm just finished. So therefore, sorry, it's possible to say that we need to find out a new way for approaching AI in the workplace. We know that humanistic management promotes human dignity, respect, people well-being, and human flourishing. Two questions are right. Is the use of AI in the organizational settings conceivable with the principles of humanistic management? There is a humanistic way to development of AI in the workplace, or instead this relationship between AI and humanistic management is only some kind of utopia. So maybe contemporary organizations are facing a new dilemma. Workers are going to become slaves of machines or to be the masters. I'm citing our article. Well, maybe it's possible to consider humanistic management and the use of AI in the workplace, simply because this perspective could help us to better use digital technologies, and in order them to work for facilitate the full development of human needs. They could contribute to the common good, and therefore maybe the best way to use AI technology is to find out a humanistic way to the use of them in the workplace. There are also some critical factors to face. Also, if we adopt this perspective, there are, sorry, I'm very brief, but the time is over. So there are a few factors: regulation, ethics, the AI, human-centered design, organizational design, managerial strategies and practices, decision-making processes, critical systemic thinking, cultural mindset, knowledge and skills. So in order to wrap up, maybe there are a few areas that could be of interest for researchers that embrace this relationship between or the application of principle of humanistic management to the use and development of AI in the workplace. The first area is AI regulation. How to regulate the use of AI in the organizational setting. Ethics, what are the ethical drivers? To favor, you can say, a human approach to AI. AI design, it's a technical issue, but maybe we could also help design to improve the human-friendly attitude of AI, organizational. So there is also a need of a dialogue between managerial and organizational scholars, technicians, engineers, computer scientists, and so on. Okay. Organizational design, how to design, better design organizational structures and processes, managerial strategies and practices, learning and knowledge development, because we need to reskill people, to need to provide people the necessary skills and knowledge in order to also to develop a critical approach towards these tools. And there is also the need of developing a new culture, a new organizational culture, and a new mindset. That's a brief my talk. This is the backbone of the paper I'm working at. It's also there are also a bit, there are simply a bit of suggestions, and I thank you for your attention, and I'm very curious and happy to know what are your impressions, what are your comments, your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fabrizio. With your permission, I will share this agenda with my doctoral students, and we will be consulting you on research possibilities moving forward.
I will send you all the slides. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. They're shopping for research topics, so you've done a lot of the work here by framing the research agenda. So thank you once again. Now we'll give the floor to Caleb so that he can give his presentation.
Sorry, I have to maybe to
yeah, sorry, I'm just going to share my screen. Am I a host also?
We'll need to unshare Fabrizio, and then Caleb
you are the host.
Okay, you may go ahead, Caleb.
Okay.
I think if you share, it will override what is on the screen, or do we have to unshare? Wait.
Yeah. So sorry, this is my fault. I had to yeah. It's making me quit and reopen. So so I'll immediately come right back in. It's not allowing me to share. So
perhaps it okay.
I don't know if I have to do something because no. Okay.
Siddhartha, can you unshare Fabrizio's sharing? Override it?
Sorry, I'm just checking.
Yeah, I believe our tech can do it on their side. So meanwhile, let's allow Caleb to rejoin. I think he may have had, was that a Zoom issue he was citing? Oh, there you go.
No.
Yeah, because I think he could have stayed on and we could have unshared as we have done, and he would have shared. So meanwhile, we have been sharing in the chat. You're okay, Fabrizio, we have unshared. So we have shared in the link to the article Fabrizio referred to in the Humanistic Management Journal. And
sorry
Caleb is
that.
back. Caleb, can you give a try to your sharing?
Yeah, maybe it said I'm disabled now. Maybe try to see if I'm.
Siddhartha, could we give him the rights?
Make him a co-host.
Yeah, or on security, you can just say allow share. Okay. So only co-host possibilities. Yeah, because this is an AOM account, so they limit our choices for doing this. Caleb, you want to give it a try?
Yeah, it said I'm disabled from
Alright,
screen sharing.
Siddhartha. Is there?
Yeah. So you are the co-host now, Caleb.
Okay, okay. Yep, I see it now. Let's see.
All right, there you go.
All right, there we go.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem at all. Yeah.
All right, so let's see if I can make this into the presenter screen or.
It's quite clear as it is.
You can see it as it is. Okay.
Yep.
So let me just. Sorry, it's not allowing me to. I'll just try one more time.
Your fonts are very clear, so that view is all right as well.
There it goes. It wasn't allowing me to see it on my screen. Okay.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for attending, and yeah. So my brief presentation is really about kind of an ongoing project that I've been working on with a co-author, Marta Roki, really about trying to, I guess you could say, articulate what we think of as a kind of core problem or core threat stemming from AI, and in some sense we take it to be more fundamental than, you know, say particular problems like you know, problems with inequality or technological unemployment, or and so, you know, this again, this is sort of along these lines, an effort to kind of do this. So basically, I mean, the idea is that, I mean, the fundamental threat of AI is a threat to basically our humanity and to our moral agency or human agency. So we wouldn't be talking about this if AI wasn't immensely beneficial. And so that's something I think to keep in mind whenever we sort of harp on the dangers of it, because I mean, let's face it, you know, AI can avoid, you know, all sorts of errors. I mean, whether it's in the workplace or with, you know, say self-driving automobiles or any of these sort of systems, ideally they're going to be much less error prone than humans. Also augmenting work. I mean, we already see that with ChatGPT and other tools like this that we're able to use them and to kind of improve our ability to do the kind of things that, you know, that we're already kind of skilled at. And then of course it can also eliminate a lot of repetitive tasks, which in themselves can be kind of dehumanizing. So and then you know, other things like being able to handle large amounts of data and to facilitate rapid decision making. Again, think about things like you know, maybe detecting cancer in you know, X-rays and things like that. And so again, I think that it's very important that we keep in mind just how beneficial AI is and promises to be. So that said, again, we want to sort of think about this kind of problem, or what is at its root, this kind of fundamental problem. And I think it's really important to look at AI in the lens or within the context of basically organizations and really organization theory. I mean, what AI does, I think, is really exacerbate many of the challenges that already resulted from formal organizations. So some of the basic, you know, ideas about, you know, what an organization is, you know, involving, say, the division of tasks, kind of pattern flows of information and hierarchical authority. AI sort of enables us to do this at a much greater volume and range, scope. But really, I mean, if you think about, you know, say the many TV shows that have you know, movies that have sort of dealt with the sort of alienating workplace, the way people within workplaces, again, not with any particular reference to technology, but just there's a movie I think that does a great job of this called Office Space, which I think came out in the 90s. But you know, it just kind of shows how sort of bureaucratic structure can be dehumanized. And so I think you know, if we think about what AI can potentially do as far as the threat that it can pose, I think we sort of have to see it is in some sense just kind of dramatically expanding the kind of alienation that might stem from formal organization. So well, one way I think that, this idea is understood alienation about this inability to understand the validity of one's reasons for action, so that, you can think about, on a daily basis, you sort of perform certain activities, and you can even recognize things as reasons. You do this in this situation, you do that, but you don't have any real sense of why are these reasons valid? How would I weigh them against other concerns? What evidence might I appeal to if I were to put these reasons in question? So just working within formal organizations can kind of put us in that situation. Another way alienation might be understood, it's kind of closely related, is this idea that it's a sense of constraint from social structures, and perhaps they're always, any sort of social structure is sort of constraining. But I think that in many ways their kind of experience is also very enabling, that we're able to fulfill these roles, and we're able to achieve goals by operating within social structures. But I think this kind of experience of alienation is this sense that the social structures that that surround us are sort of just constraining, and they prevent us from being who we might otherwise be. And so if organizations already do this, I think that when we think about AI, one helpful way is to sort of see them as, again, exacerbating this kind of problem. So now tasks are, in some sense, even further divided. So again, think about things like the Google Maps or something. In the past, we would sort of have this ability, in our own heads. We would be able to navigate in cities and places that we live in, and now we sort of outsource these to an algorithm, and outsource this task. And so many tasks like this are sort of further divided in a way that they hadn't been in the past. And even that example is something I've thought about. The apps like Waze or Google Maps, will sort of often route us now through neighborhoods or through places where traffic, say, didn't ordinarily flow and wasn't designed to flow. So now you have, these situations where there's, say, bumper to bumper traffic, people coming from all over the place, right next to these, playgrounds and, sort of houses, neighborhoods where maybe kids would be playing, after school or something. And so, again, it's just a kind of, a small example, but, by outsourcing our decisions, we somehow impose on others in a way that maybe it's acceptable, but we somehow impose on others by sort of driving through and people's neighborhoods, living spaces in a sense, in a way that we wouldn't in the past. And this is a kind of again, just a kind of a simple example of how by outsourcing, we might be sort of by outsourcing our thinking, we might be sort of caught up in practices that ultimately, are in some sense, not good. Again, I don't want to make any judgment about this case, but and so, I think that if we reflect in the many ways that AI sort of influences this, again, we sort of see it as kind of dramatically exacerbating this problem. So so again, another way we might think about this, again, along the same lines, is about sort of generative AI, and in general, kind of the algorithms used in different systems as kind of a structure that we that we now sort of live in. And again, this gets to this question about whether we control AI or AI controls us. I mean, I think that again, this quote from Marcuse, again, before AI, and he was just kind of talking about factories and the kind of the mass production that was kind of occurring in the after World War II. But this idea being that we become part of this system rather than controlling it. We literally become part of this technological system, and not again, not only is it it's a way of organizing and also changing our social relationships, right? And but again, I think that this issue is kind of dramatically kind of made dramatically more challenging with the growth of AI, because again, it allows for so much to be sort of influenced by algorithms. So again, you think about to what extent AI structures our thoughts, and again, I think especially this kind of the large language models, and I mean, our writing potentially becomes normalized, right? When we think about how we write, we think, well, we should write how the algorithm tells us to write, and what does that do? It feeds into the algorithm, right? And then it becomes this sort of norm. So our own thoughts. So instead of having sort of stylistic kind of flair when we write things, we I mean, often these algorithms tell us to cut out anything that's unnecessary, right? So there's a certain way of writing. And so, again, I use this because of my own experience as an academic, and all of our experiences, right? We're sort of, trained, if we use, whether it's ChatGPT or even things like Grammarly or something like that, right? To write in a certain way, right? And it's only a matter of time, and probably a very short time, to where we will be sort of trained to just write this way, and we will no longer need to even check, with the algorithm, right? We're thinking this way. And again, also structure our social relationships. So how we view others, right? How we view their writing, right? How we view each other's writing. Oh, well, this is a bit wordy, right? You're not, but also, things like, think about how, our the recommendations for what TV shows to watch, right? There's a sort of effect here of becoming sort of normalized, and so how we think and how we view each other, I think, is increasingly kind of shaped by algorithms. Again, I don't want to say that this is necessarily bad, because these tools can be very helpful, but this is a fact about the way they operate. Much that takes what the phenomenon Marcuse was pointing to with mass production and in the technological systems that involved, and it's made it, I think, much more far-reaching and maybe insidious, in the way it can kind of reach into our thoughts and our relationships. So we often hear this idea of keeping humans in the loop. This is something that people will say, okay, well, we need to keep humans in the loop, but I'm very skeptical of this as being sufficient. I mean, first off, I think that well, so let's consider this quote from Heidegger again. I think before, I think this is what So Heidegger talks about the they, das Man, and this idea of prescribing a sort of everydayness, sort of average everydayness, right? So this idea that there's a sort of way that things are done that we ought to do this, right? That's how they do it. That's what they say you should do, right? And this kind of term that he uses, and I think that this is this sort of effect from AI. This is the effect that it has, that we sort of basically think it as sort of average sort of everydayness, right? About how the algorithms can sort of collect massive forms of behavior from massive databases and figure out sort of how do people normally kind of act in these situations, and we're sort of trained by this. So I think that when we talk about keeping humans in the loop to be able to evaluate these systems, first off, there's psychological threats to human agency. I mean, as I already mentioned, in our own thinking, right, we are shaped by algorithms, and I think that we'll also increasingly be afraid to doubt algorithms, right, in our own consciences, right? We don't want to question these algorithms. How am I doing on time? For 5 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, we can wrap up in 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And so also social threats to human agency, again, as I've already mentioned, but affecting our relationships. But I think that increasingly we will see sanctions for people. So social sanctions, again, whether not the informal sort of sanctions in the way we interact with each other for people who are sort of questioning the algorithms. Right? You think you know better than this system, right? How just let the system do it. Why are you bothering with that? It knows better. Or I mean, these kind of ways of interacting, I think, will increasingly become prominent from AI. And so these are the kind of dangers that I think it poses, AI poses as a kind of threat to human agency. So I really like this idea. I've always sort of had an admiration for Hannah Arendt's work, and I really like this idea of natality. And I think it kind of captures sort of the opposite of the problem, or not necessarily the solution, but the sort of ideal of so this is a quote from Augustine, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase but the translation kind of loosely paraphrase. Human beings are created to be a new beginning is basically her idea, right? So this idea that of natality is that we can basically not repeat the patterns that have gone on before us, whether in our own lives or in the lives of people who have come before us, right? We're each of us new beginnings, and so this idea of novelty, self-consciousness, being aware of being aware of our reasons and their validity, this capacity to reflect upon the validity of one's reasons. Again, this is the kind of element that I think that is threatened by AI. And so as beneficial as it is, I think we increasingly need to think about how as individuals and organizations we can sort of preserve this sort of capacity to be new beginnings, to act. Again, this is kind of her term for acting. So again, I think Anita had this wonderful kind of meditation session in the beginning here, and so I think that these kind of practices of kind of self-awareness will be increasingly important, and from again different traditions will have different views. You can think of these sort of spiritual exercises, mindfulness, the examine practice from Saint Ignatius of Loyola. All of these things are ideas of kind of becoming aware of our actions, and I think I think it's increasingly important because the far-reaching impact of AI on our own psyches, I think, is something that's completely new within human civilization, and that we haven't begun to really think about how to sort of deal with it. And so as much as maybe organizations are important, I think it will be a matter of individuals being able to kind of cultivate this. So again, at the organization level, I mean, what I say here is really nothing particularly novel, I don't think, but just first off, I think having establishing legitimate managerial authority. And so the idea is that in the background, we're never going to overcome the divisions of labor and the information divisions of information that are constitutive of organizations. And again, or human society in general, and we would never want to. We'll always need people in different roles who understand reasons better. But what we need is to be able to trust the authority of people who are able to kind of use their knowledge in certain contexts. So we have to be able to trust the leaders in our organizations and accept that authority as being based on good grounds, so that we in our own actions, right, can trust that, look, I may not understand all the reasons why we were doing this, but I can accept that that I'm acting on good reasons because I trust these people who are in authority. And again, I think it's a high order, but some ways to do this are to establish a commitment to a good purpose, embed fairness and avoidance of harm within organizational routines, and finally to just be able to foster this kind of meaningful participation. So authority is kind of linked with this kind of participation, and to be able to enable people to have input on the rules and routines, and especially again on the uses of AI and algorithms and technology. And it will take a sort of I think a lot of effort to be able to create organizations where AI is empowering and rather than being more alienating. I don't have time to get into it, but I think there are also benefits for organizations that do this. I think that they, this is something that is not only a sort of ethical matter, but organizations can actually benefit sort of you know, in their sort of long-term performance by building these kind of cultures. But so that kind of wraps up my presentation. But thank you.
That was wonderful, Caleb. Thank you for raising all of those critical and very important questions. They were important even before the advent of AI, and we have been struggling to really make organizations humane for a very, very long time since the Industrial Revolution. And you are pointing out that this becomes even more urgent in the AI regime. So now I will share my screen. Let's hope technology cooperates. It's always an act of faith when we use technology. All right, so let's see. Sharing my screen. I'll try to keep this under 10 so we have more time for questions. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So, all right. So what I tried to do, building on what was discussed by our friends, is to look at this from an action research perspective, especially in the case of the Philippines, where I believe humanistic AI can be an instrument for management and national development. So what I tried to do is conceive of AI as an instrument for achieving human flourishing, sustainable value for stakeholders of organizations, which was touched on by both Fabrizio and Caleb, and productivity for the common good. So the essential point here is that humans must be in control of AI. Although we know that because of captology and behavioral persuasion software, essentially algorithms have been training people ever since the smartphone arrived, right? Because we know that the algorithms now reach every individual, even as you're walking about. We are always being conditioned by algorithms. The important thing is we are aware of this and we take agency in shutting it down or changing our settings, etc. But if we retain that control, then AI can be an instrument for human flourishing, and more on this later. But to Caleb's and Fabrizio's point, AI can also enable organizations to be better at improving the lives of stakeholders, because ultimately that's what organizations were created for, to improve the lives of people, because there are things that simply individuals cannot do on their own, such as gather food or promote health or promote mobility, etc. That's why organizations are extremely important. But of course, in the neoliberal conception, it became an instrument mainly for the accumulation of profit. And this is where all the problems emerge, when the power structure now allowed the concentration of wealth to be extracted from those who do the work and creating imbalances in the social and now even the natural environment. And of course, in society as a whole, we want AI to be promoters of lifting everybody up in terms of, the analogy of the boat. So if we look at human flourishing per se, I've always found it helpful to look at humans as basically in need of material goods, such as food, shelter, clothing, etc., to subsist, but then more importantly, for work and other material inputs to provide for flourishing in different dimensions. That's why, having a sense of purpose and meaning in life as we do our work, instead of just dragging ourselves out of bed every Monday morning and feeling like a drone or a robot, going to work and then commuting and then going home and doing the routine again each day. That's why I love the way Caleb and Fabrizio pointing out that essentially we must retain the humanity of our work and all these other aspects as well, sharpening our ethical thinking, not outsourcing our judgment to a machine, for example, taking care of our health, etc. So if we think of this framework as important for what I'm arguing for, then within an organization, we can now see that business organizations are really hubs for enabling flourishing among all stakeholders. So if we think of each of the human beings here, including human beings in the future who will benefit from the environment, as having that right or that dignity to grow to their full potential, this is the real potential of businesses. And if AI can assist this, then we know that it is serving a humanistic purpose. Now, of course, in our article, we make the point that this means that humans have to retain the master position over AI, because then the AI can be used instrumentally to develop the virtues. many of which were touched on by Fabrizio and Caleb, especially moderation in the way we do things, the use of our wisdom so that we can constantly reflect on what we do, the courage to correct things that are not right, to speak up, even to talk back to algorithms, there's a way to do that, and to be fair to others and to cultivate our minds. But of course, as we know, the struggle for virtues always can swing to the other side. And we have seen how AI sometimes push us to the other side, where we have addictions, whether, for social media or streaming services, etc. And Caleb already mentioned this, the simple act of using Google Maps or Waze simply means we're outsourcing our navigation to an algorithm. And I make it a habit to every now and then disobey these algorithms, just so I don't feel I'm, entering into slavishness. And of course, arrogance and bullying, just because social media allows us to have a platform where we can project our voice. We now use it sometimes to clamp down people. I think it's been referred to as cancel culture. And of course, algorithms, because of their inherent bias and discrimination, as pointed out by Fabrizio, it can marginalize people. So for example, if we say that large language models has all knowledge, this is not true, of course. It only has digital knowledge. And many cultures in the world don't even put knowledge in writing. So what about that knowledge? It will never be captured, right? But if we project LLMs as somehow capturing knowledge, then it becomes problematic. And of course, the loss of critical thinking is a huge problem. This is happening in education. I've been introduced twice in a conference by somebody using ChatGPT, and 90% of what it said about me is wrong. So, and I've given feedback to Microsoft about this, and they've done some corrections. So as a matter of fact, there is no evidence at all that the accuracy rate of LLMs is high, because it was not designed to be accurate. It was designed to sound human by mimicking human sentences based on patterns, right? But that's a statistical creation. It's not based on fact. Certainly, it's not based on any sense of knowing from the LLM. So some of the effects, therefore, if we don't mind the use of AI, can be the very opposite of the flourishing we want. At the level of the material, the social extraction can be amplified, which means that there will be more and more tech trillionaires, while many in the world will languish under extreme deprivation and a very unmeaningful work. Of course, there are sometimes physical harms. Autonomous vehicles have caused deaths, right? There is the Arizona case of the woman who was run over by an autonomous car. And it was the human operator that was charged. The corporation was not charged, which is a mystery to me. The human operator was there sitting, but not driving. She was probably distracted for a moment. But the AI did not recognize that this woman crossing the street, not on a bike, but walking beside the bike, was not recognized by the AI, and she was run over in the forest, lost her life. Caleb touched on the importance of meaningful work and how this can be slowly extracted by AI, and all these other things. Now, of course, to be fair, I've looked at some promising use of AI, which might be helpful for value creation and productivity. There are AI that can help in fact-checking, ethical reflections. You can put your personal mission statement in an app, and then at the end of the day, you can journal, and it asks you, so how did you serve your higher purpose today? And then so you have a journal, and it encourages you. And by saying, well, you said you wanted to spend more time with your family. I'm not seeing you spending time with your family in your calendar. Would you like to think about that? These are ways for us to have more balance in our lives. There are assertiveness coaching apps. Of course, we know that there are tutoring apps. Social media apps can be used not just for linking to people we care about, but also advocating causes, advocacies, networking with people with expertise that we rely on. This is a wonderful opportunity. For example, for us in the humanistic management field, I've made many friends who have encouraged me to pursue my own research because of their inspiration. So this is where I think social media has powerful impacts on our agency and our collective consciousness. So I'd like to end by showing what is in our Constitution. Our Constitution says that our goal, the vision of Philippines Inc., is a rising standard of living and an improved quality of life for all. So far, we have been very delayed in achieving this mission of our constitution. And if we don't act properly, AI can actually slow us down even more because the social extraction will just be magnified. And so we will lose our voice. Already now, we in Southeast Asia don't feel we have much of voice in the global discussion on good, responsible AI. A lot of it is led by the Europeans, some in some parts of the US. But so far, I'm not hearing the East Asian or Southeast Asian voice yet. So I hope that can be rectified. So I'll end here and now open the floor to your wonderful questions and comments. Meanwhile, while I was looking at my presentation, all right. So we'll open the floor to your comments and questions. Now you may direct your questions to any particular presenter, and we'd love to hear what you have to think as well as your insights. Who would like to start the ball rolling? Of course, our doctoral students here are very much welcome. Jyoti, I see you unmuting, so I think you'll start the ball rolling.
I just wanted to compliment everybody. Really appreciated listening to your perspectives and learned a lot from that. Thank you for
Jyoti.
your patience.
So that was a very humanistic thing to do for us speakers, Jyoti. Thank you so much.
So I'm Sunita here. I just wanted to put a thought forward. I really enjoyed the presentations, but many times, I think in some of the sessions also, which Professor Jyoti Bachani had organized through Humanistic Management, we'd spoken about how it becomes overwhelming and people with certain awareness or certain consciousness are actually only at the margins. So that creating the tipping point to bring about that awareness, at least to me, it seems a gigantic task. So in that sense, also a certain kind of pessimism comes in, you know. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, how do we work with that?
Yeah, indeed. I hear you, Sunita. It's like you're dealing with a tsunami and you don't even know how to swim. So, which is why I believe coming together as communities with common concerns is absolutely essential. We need to share the burden together because we're dealing with machines that are very efficient. And of course, the profit motive is the most efficient motive in the world, right? So we're really pushing for a different agenda. This is how we can make the world better for human beings. So we need to really continue our conversations and then build advocacies based on this. In my own country, I've filed policy initiatives that our government is looking at. We have 3 pending bills in Congress on how to use AI for national development. But for us as teachers and as researchers, our gift to the world is really questions and knowledge, and that can be an input to how we can better prepare. I wonder how the other presenters feel about the concern of Sunita. Fabrizio, yes.
Yes, of course. Yes, it's a matter of consciousness, but consciousness, in my humble opinion, also related to knowledge. No, I really appreciated Caleb citing Marcuse. You know that the Frankfurt School adopted the Marxist approach. How can I say? The technological, political, social structure is influenced by or determined by the economic structure. In this case, maybe it is happening exactly the contrary. It's the technological infrastructure, the technological system, which is influencing our life, our economies, our society, because of course there is also a how can I say a knowledge of that. So it's important also to leverage people's knowledge, people's self-awareness, because AI, at least at the moment, is simply a digital tool that could help us in automatize some procedures, and in improve our ability to analyze, solve problems, but it's not a super powerful tool. It's not, at least at the moment, more intelligent than human intelligence.
Thank
so
you,
there is also a matter, sorry, there is also a matter, you know, it's early morning. It's also a matter of propaganda. We have to filter propaganda on AI.
Which is why critical thinking is essential.
Yeah.
We need to hang on to our mastery position if we want to have AI serve human needs. Caleb, may we hear from you?
So yeah, I mean, I agree with kind of what you have said, what you guys have said. I'll just kind of add, yeah, I think that, you know, I mean, there's a big, I think we have a huge opportunity in our teaching and in our research, you know, but I mean, like, I think the challenge is to kind of stay, to become and to remain kind of aware of these new technologies and the way that they will be used in the workplace. And that I think that, you know, as we go forward, that will be a big task for us to be able to kind of, you know, bring students through the impact of these things, because probably for many of the other classes that will be trying to kind of, you know, show how these can be used to kind of, you know, enhance efficiency or performance, right? These other aspects will be lost. So it'll be important that, you know, I mean, whatever class we're teaching, but that we're kind of trying to kind of call attention to that. And you know, I like to think that, you know, through education, right, you can have an impact. But I mean, to be honest, I'm a little pessimistic. I mean, I think that in general that it's such an overwhelming, you know, AI and, you know, new social media and these technologies, you know, that it maybe will take many generations to learn how to use them properly or in a way that's not. I mean, look at the problems with like adolescent, especially girls, like with social media. And, you know, I think we'll look back on this and say, how could we have done this to these poor kids, you know, but it'll take time. So in this sense, I think the answer is kind of, you know, it can only occur maybe, you know, in one organization at a time. I mean, in our own organizations or in those that we're involved with, to be able to kind of point out, you know, how the problems that with systems and how they could be improved in a piecemeal way. But yeah, I think it is a kind of daunting task because
Yeah, it is daunting, and which is why, well, I still believe that being in the educational field is an exercise in hope, because we touch the lives of young people and those who will build the future. Otherwise, for me, there's no point in being a teacher, right? Let's all retire and stay at home and watch Netflix the whole day. But we are building the future together because of our research, and we're joining with others. And for me, this is more of a push to the humanistic management scholars to really double down on the mission of recentering organizations on humans rather than on efficiency. Because we've been in the margins for such a long time, I always survey the introduction to management textbooks, and 90% of them still go for productivity and efficiency as the main purpose of organized work. But there are a few introduction to management books, and I always praise the authors that say it is really about human welfare and stakeholder benefits. So, but these are very few and far between, and they don't sell much. So I think this is just a clarion call for us, the presence of AI, to intensify our propaganda that humanistic organizations are really what we're working for, and AI can help us. So that rather than running away from AI, as Caleb said, let's be aware of what we can do, and then we make sure that it serves our agenda as human beings. I think the others also want to jump in and share their questions or comments. We welcome Nishant, who has joined us. Payal, of course, is here. What do you think, guys? What is our best approach?
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention something about, you said, our role as teachers, and it's so important. I mean, not all teachers think like that, by the way, but, so ethics, how can we use AI? I mean, everybody's talking about AI dumbing down students. That's definitely there. I think it's even dumbing down faculty. You can just get a course outline or whatever you want through ChatGPT, don't have to think much. But, I've been using it, and perhaps others could give some examples in the ethics course that I teach, and trying to manage both creativity and ethics by saying things like, go to ChatGPT or, Google or any other source and come up with ethical dilemmas in the workplace in a given context, right? Come up with these examples. But then on top of that, to say to the students, okay, you've got these examples presented in the class, but I want your analysis with two different endings to the situation. One could be like a good ending and like more humanistic, and another could be a kind of a very transactional and materialistic ending, which is not good for anybody. So you know what I mean? So I think we need to be a lot more creative. And I wonder if faculty out there have any more examples of how to do this, to manage creativity and ethics at the same time.
Thank you, Payal. That was a fantastic use case. LLM, well, because of course, in many educational settings, getting appropriate cases for classroom discussion has always been a challenge. So you've shown how we can use LLMs to actually generate those cases, but still make the students responsible for the analysis and action. What we wouldn't like is for them to just ask the LLM to also analyze the case for them, and then they submit it as their assignment, which I'm sure they will do. But we have to be very vigilant that they do their part. Thank you for that example. I think I'll do that, Payal. Thank you for that example. What about the others? What are your thoughts on this, both in the workplace and as our role as teachers, and also our role as advocates? As scholars, we need to advocate, because the big corporations, the tech corps, are spending literally billions on advocating and lobbying governments. We are not organized like a corporation because we believe in collegiality, so we're spread all over the world, so we don't move as one. That is the big advantage of huge corporations. They can move as one. Yes, Siddhartha, please. We'd like to hear from our young scholars.
Yeah, so I had this question that there is always this discussion happening on future of work, which is again a very ambiguous area that is developing because of technology and a lot of international things changing. On the other side, we have technologies like artificial intelligence, language models also developing. So where does the point comes where both of them align together, and how do we try to understand the impact on human? Because there was this the point that happens is access to these technologies and use is also limited. So the impact on humanity when something is not very clear becomes a question, and that's a concern that I see.
Yeah, especially for our young, it creates a lot of ambiguity in the current work situation, and then anxiety and uncertainty for the future. Who would like to field that question? Caleb, Fabrizio?
Just a consideration. Technology is never neutral. And technology is a matter of innovation technique, but there's also a social dimension. So every innovation has some kind of ambiguity. We are using air conditioners. Air conditioners are very useful, but they are at least not so sustainable in terms of green economy. And if you use too much, then you get a cold. So obviously, technology is not something objective. It depends. The impact of technology depends also on the way you use it. So I totally agree with Ben and also with Caleb as well. We are facing a strong wave of propaganda because tech tycoons are spending a lot of money in order to make us believe that digital technologies are better than humans, they are necessary, they are useful, etc. They are necessary, they are useful. As Ben pointed out, they can help us to face a lot of problems. But for example, no, in the cinema these days, there will be a movie, Oppenheimer, on the tragical history of the biography of the head of the project that led to the development of the atomic weapon. This is a typical example of the relation between technology, strategy, power, social issue. You can use atomic energy to heal people, and you can use atomic energy to destroy people. And so for what concerns this double meaning of technology, it's not something, it's not really new, but at the same time, for this reason, it's important that people, society, governments try to counteract, respect a very strong propaganda, respect the situation in which technology-driven companies have the power right now. And there is a strong asymmetry between the masters of the technology and people who simply use or are used by the technology.
So that's where we draw the line, Fabrizio. Thank you for summarizing that. My take on this is I often fight the tendency to see this as a crisis of technology and see it more as a crisis of vision. I think what humans have over any other entity in the world is we have the capacity for vision. We can imagine a better world, we can imagine a better future, and certainly when I look at my kids, I imagine a better future, and that's powerful stuff. And because of that, we should not give up that ability and use that to now say, this is the kind of workplace we want, this is the kind of world we want, and we're gonna take that opportunity to build that world. Because as my co-presenters have said, AI is a tool. It's not neutral, it is influencing us in specific ways. But we can definitely push back because we're humans. The point is, if we give up on that, then we will become like in the Matrix, we will become the batteries of the sentience. I love the Matrix, but I don't want to be a battery for this so-called sentience. Our vision is what powers us. That is why MSR, I'm so happy that MSR is now a full division in the academy, because we know the power of consciousness, we know the power of collective vision, and this is something that we feel managers should harness so that we will have workplaces that are animated by purpose, by meaning, by deep relationships, etc. Everything that really mattered to people. I think Nishant wanted to share some ideas as well, and I was just saying I love seeing love, hope, and happiness in his background. Nishant, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I just want to tell an anecdote. So in our college, initially ChatGPT was not taken very well. People who were using ChatGPT were not seen in a good light. But now, after a few months have passed and people have seen that how it can be also used ethically. just to take ideas or to brainstorm, and then you can, implement your own original idea, and actually it helps you to do a lot of stuff which should be done by a machine. So now if you are not using ChatGPT, they see you otherwise, like you are lacking behind. And I just wanted to add to the narrative that is going on. My latest work is on AI ethics, and where we kind of highlight this debate that generally technology is seen as neutral, but it is always value driven. And if it is value driven, then the developer or someone who is actually taking the decision while the AI is being used should be actually accountable or responsible for taking that decision. Because we are using the AI for these drones for flood relief in India. So my brother is in IIT and we are preparing this AI which can do, these drones can go and map the flood area and can take this decision that which area is more critical. So when this decision comes, so will it take a utilitarian stand or will it take a fairness stand? So that depends. So that's why I think responsibility becomes very important. And as you told that even in studying, I think so from your session, I take this feedback that technology is never neutral, and then we need to take care. And one thing I wanted to ask that how we can make the pedagogies more interesting. Like being going to be in a faculty in the coming 6 to 7 months. How can we incorporate AI into the pedagogy? Because I see companies like Coursera, which used to offer online courses, and then they saw AI as a threat. But now they're integrating AI itself in the platform. So you learn from both the AI and the platform. So how can a management teacher can integrate that AI into the pedagogy when they do that?
Yeah, I think we had a, thank you for that, Nishan. I think we had a special session on AI and teaching and pedagogy. But Payal also gave us a wonderful idea on one specific use case. I'm sure committed teachers can come up with different ways of using these tools to enhance their pedagogy. The important thing always is that the learning outcome that we are aiming for is always very clear. So if we want to develop the minds of our students, then we can use this in a very thoughtful way so that they can achieve that, right? So that these are not just.
If I could just add, sorry,
go
Dan,
ahead,
if I could
Payal,
just
yes.
add, in my session, which is there, I think, in the next half an hour, I will be talking a little bit about how to bring it into teaching, through our own role modeling and stuff like that. So if somebody's interested, they could just stay on, yeah?
Fantastic, wonderful. So yes, I think our students are looking for guidance from their elders, quote unquote. So if we can show ways of using this in empowering and human ways, I believe that will be very helpful. It will balance the doom and gloom that often overwhelms even me, honestly, which is why I'm trying to fight, because this is uphill, guys. But that's what we're made for. We're built for this stuff. And we're going to do this because it is the future, especially for young people. So I'm sorry I've overstepped my time. Anita has been reminding us ever faithfully to answer our feedback form. I'd like to end by again thanking our panelists, Fabrizio and Caleb, for their wonderful insights. Those who have requests for the slides can put their email in the chat, and we will make sure we get the slides to you. And then we welcome you to the next sessions after half an hour. Keep joining us for our research colloquium, and please spread the word that AI can be a force for human flourishing in the workplace and in society, but we need to be ever vigilant and ever proactive, and let us retain our vision of a better world for all. Anita, back to you for any administrative announcements, if any.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ben. What a fantastic session on AI. We learned so much from there. And it is really a reflective moment for all of us to understand the implications of AI in future and in teaching. So we are looking forward to our next session. Do join us after half an hour. And it will be on in context of India. So see you there.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Take a well-earned break. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
you, Siddhartha, Anita.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Namaste, good morning.
Namaste, sir. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Good morning, Ashish.
Hi, Amelia. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Are you going to Boston?
Yes, yes. What
Good,
about
good.
you?
We'll meet you. Huh?
Oh, great.
Good, good, good. I'm sorry I cannot turn on my video. I'm really sorry.
No problem. I'll see you in Boston then.
Yay, looking forward for
Till
it.
then I
Is
can
it
hear you.
possible like we have a little bit of a leap also? Can you spare the time?
Yes, yes. I will join at least a session or two of LEAP. Yeah. Good. So we'll start our session at 10:30.
Yeah.
I see Raghuji has joined, Vinayji has joined. We will have a formal introduction of the speakers after beginning, but in between, I would like to know all Nishant Gargji and Manish Aroraji's Sunita S. If you could introduce yourself, that will be good.
Hello, sir. I'm Sunita. I'm working with IM Raipur. We met recently when you were here.
Okay, okay, okay. Hi, Sunita. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you.
Nishant Garg, you are from where? If you can introduce yourself, that will help us to remember you after the session as well. Similarly, Manish.
Oh, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Actually, I am Nishant's brother, and like he's just coming. He's gone to the washroom. Sorry for the.
Namaste, Raghuji.
Manish Arora ji, may you please introduce yourself?
And Anita, do you know who is Isha? Is she the organizer or?
No, I have no idea. Okay. Yeah, maybe she may introduce. Yeah.
Okay, Vijay has also.
Namaste, namaste everyone.
Good
Morning.
Good morning. Hi, Isha. How are you?
I'm happy, sir. How are you?
I'm good. So you need to tell a little bit more about your whereabouts so that we can remember.
Yeah, so my name is Nishant. I am doing my PhD from IIM Lucknow. So I am in my 4th year of PhD. So I'm going to complete this year. And I am very much interested in developing happiness index for India as a country. Because, I feel that it can be cut, copy, pasted from the West. And then I work heavily with mindfulness. I have traveled with a lot of masters like Dalai Lama, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Sadhguru at other organizations as well. So I try to bring mindfulness and how it can bring more happiness and better decisions in life. And then MSR is a good opportunity to bring research into that. So, and that was the intent of me doing PhD in HR so that I can have a good academic background on what social work I do. So yeah, that is it. And I love to attend this session.
Thanks. You're most welcome.
Yeah. And I
So
think he's also doing something interesting in artificial intelligence also. He told us in the first session.
Yeah,
okay.
So right now, my brother is he's doing PhD from IIT Ropar. And my background is a computer science engineer from Delhi College of Engineering. So we thought, why not, kind of merge that HR and IT and try to do something on AI ethics. So he has developed drone technology for flood management in India. So we're trying to bring ethics into that because once this autonomous vehicles start taking decision, so it is the decision of lives of people. So then we bring the angle of utilitarianism or fairism. So that's why we bring ethics into AI, and that's why this becomes even more interesting. The colloquium having this theme,
Lovely. Great. And since you are looking at a happiness index from the Indian perspective, You must have looked at, I suppose, Tatri Upanishad, the Anandavalli.
Yeah, Upanishads are very close to my heart, and I love Mandukya Upanishad the most. It is the smallest and yet the most simplest and complex to understand.
Yeah. So there is an Anandavalli in Tatri Upanishad, which exactly talks about the Anand. Though most of that I couldn't understand. I hope someone like young scholar like you can unravel for all of us.
Hmm.
But it is exactly the Anand and the progression of Anand. And it's a very interesting algorithmic kind of a depiction of different levels of Anand. But let's see if you can unravel for us. That will be wonderful. That will be great.
Definitely, maybe in the next MSR retreat, I would do a meditation on that. So I would need an year to kind of learn it and bring something out of it.
We have 1 more minute. I know Shalini ji from I am Raipur has also joined. Thanks, Shalini, for joining in. And Sumita.
Just my screen sharing is disabled. Would it be possible to?
Yeah, I'm doing. Give me a second.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am Sumita. I am from IIM Sambalpur. And I'm a faculty of business ethics. So this was of interest to me. So I thought of joining this.
Thanks very much, Sumita ji, for joining.
Anita ji, can you enable screen sharing for me also? I might have to use.
Yes, I'm doing so. And when I see also.
I'm not using any presentation.
Okay. I've made you as a co-host also. In any case you want. So it's 10:30 and welcome back again. Yeah. So we may start the session, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So
welcome back. Thanks very much for for joining in. We will start with a short meditation, and as it is being kind of taught in the tradition of yoga, there's no we need to do some physical activity before getting into the meditative kind of state. So there are few activities we can do sitting in the chair itself. Like first is like crossing the fingers, stretching the arms, then turning it, and stretch your body fully. You can stand up and for a few seconds and then stand up on your toes. Do it at least 3 times. After stretching your body, press your head against your palm. Put your palm on the side, right side, then left side. Press your palm and head against each other. Cross the fingers and press your head against your fingers. Then press against each other. Now cross your fingers, put behind your neck and press the neck. Most of the time our backbone is tilted forward, so we have to tilt it a little bit backward. You can stretch your shoulders behind. If you stretch your shoulders behind, then backbone will also bend backward. And then cross the fingers again. And gradually try to touch your elbows. Take 3 deep breaths in this posture and then open up. And do it once more. And third time. There is another process like twisting our backbone. It is good to maintain the health of your backbone, because most of the time, most of us remain in the sitting posture. You can turn actually your chair and do it right. Put your hand on the armrest and then turn, like twisting the backbone. Okay. You can close your eyes. Those who are wearing specs can keep aside the specs. Palm on the knees. Backbone comfortably erect. You can take the support of backrest. Try to fix your attention to the sound coming from the most distant point from where you are sitting. Try to listen to the sound which is coming from the farthest of the point from where you are sitting. Now take your attention and fix your attention to the sound coming from outside of the building where you are sitting. Just outside of the building where you are sitting, sounds might be coming. Fix your attention on those sounds. If there are multiple sounds, move your attention from one to the another. Now fix your attention to the sound coming from the room where you are sitting. No need to struggle with any sound coming from your surrounding. Accept all the sounds which are coming from your surrounding. Simple mindfulness technique is you can follow your breath, keep your attention on the breath. You can also keep your attention to the stomach, movements going on in the stomach with breathing. Mind naturally wanders. Keep bringing back your attention to the moments going on in the stomach with breathing. Please bring back your attention to the stomach and notice the movements going on in the stomach with breathing. Thank you very much. And you feel like, rub your palm, put on your eyes. Feel the warmth of your palm on your face and on your eyelids. Gently open your eyes. Good morning once again, and thanks very much for joining for this retreat colloquium. We have some very committed scholars and teachers and researchers on this panel who are working in the field of MSR for last many years, if not many decades. So this is, as the theme suggests, it is in a way giving a perspective about what is going on in the field of MSR in different aspects. So management is also management education, management is also consulting, management is also about management research. So this is what we are going to focus on, different aspects of MSR. So MSR, management, spirituality and religion, in teaching, in consulting, and research, all three aspects we'll touch upon. The first speaker is, as the speakers keep, so we have teachers like Viji, who has very masterfully integrated the spiritual practices into the general teaching in the BTech programs for the engineering students, as well as for the MBA students in IIT Madras. We have Raghuji. Raghu Anandanarayanji is a very experienced and accomplished OD practitioner, organization development practitioner, and also very ardent practitioner of yoga for last several decades. And he has very beautifully integrated insights from Mahabharata and Yoga Sutra for his organizational work, commercial organization as well as non-commercial, not-for-profit social organizations. He is also author of 5 books. He has brought many insights, psychology-based insights from the Indian wisdom tradition, from the Itihasa, from Purana. So he brings that very special perspective. Payalji is editor plus author and of course management educator for, I know her for at least about 1.5 decades. And she, since the time she was in with the Sage publication, an editor in the publication, her PhD work is on coaching, and she has authored papers on coaching, and a very active researcher as well as management educator currently with the BM Munjal University. So Payalji will be speaking. We have Vinayakji. There is a very kind of a comprehensive and very useful book has come up on the Indian knowledge system. An Indian knowledge system which is not only in the philosophy and psychology, also in metallurgy, in hydrology, in mathematics. So he is the co-author of that book. The book project was led by Professor Mahadevan from IIM Bangalore, and Vinayakji is a co-author. I think when Vinayakji was authoring. He was perhaps with the Chinmaya University, and now he is with the Chanakya University in Bangalore. So this is the kind of speaking order, and the speakers, the panel is here. I'll request Vijay to, so all the speakers will take about 10 to 12 minutes to share what they are doing. I know it is not easy to contain the journey of decades in 10 to 12 minutes, but idea is that people should get interested. Idea is not to tell people what all has happened, but also to make interested to explore further. I'm sure after listening to these panelists, you will be interested to know further, and once you will dig deeper, you will find lots of resources. Many of that is being created by these panelists, and many of that which is on which their work is built. So if we are able to create interest, and if we can make people to explore further in this direction, we will consider this the criteria for success for this this panel. So I'll request Professor Vijayalakshmi to start start her talk.
Thank you, Professor Ashish. Good day to everybody who's joining from maybe different parts of the world. Really grateful for the opportunity. So let me take you back maybe 8 years or so, when like any other institute, IIT Madras also had something called the Guidance and Counseling Unit. And we did not see students approaching or seeking support or help wholeheartedly, in the sense there's always a taboo in terms of mental health and wellness. So there was a change in leadership several years back, and this brought in some brainstorming sessions and the need to reframe this idea of wellness, and to encourage students to approach counselors and wellness officers. And we made this into a wellness center with several wings under it called Mitra and Sathi. Mitra was the counseling wing, and Sathi was the more proactive wing, where we used to conduct workshops for students and faculty. Along this time, we thought it would make a lot of sense to offer a life skills course. So that was kind of the first course, which is called the GN course, the general course. Students with all these technical courses, very heavy courses, their reaction and response to these courses have been very, very heartening over the years. And so we started off with life skills, and Professor Devdas Menon of Civil Engineering Department is credited with bringing these GN courses or initiating these GN courses. And now we have over 15 courses as part of the GN basket. He started off with offering a course on self-awareness. So he brought in a lot of aspects from the ancient Indian wisdom, and a lot of sessions on meditation and yoga. And the second course that he offered was Integral Karma Yoga. So I just want to share my screen very briefly. It was definitely an experience, because when we were presenting these courses in the Senate, it was definitely a new thing for people. So self-awareness course, so he's written a book called Stop Sleepwalking Through Life. And he incorporated a lot of mindfulness meditation in his course. So his YouTube videos are also very popular. And an offshoot of this course has been an annual affair of something called Self-Awareness and Higher Goals in Education, which is called SAGE. And we've been offering this faculty development program every year. It's complimentary for faculty across India. And this is a 5-day retreat, a pure retreat in the beautiful campus of IIT Madras, where faculty do not learn technical skills and competencies, but they introspect and reflect on themselves as teachers and gurus. A large part of these courses and the FDP program includes also Sri Aurobindo's integral theory. So the PVMS, we have through several activities and exercises, we talk about that. So the second course that I mentioned, the Integral Karma Yoga, again, one of its kind. An offshoot of this has been Spirituality at Work, a book that Professor Devdas Men has written. And recent book of his is on Nachiketas. So Professor Menon focuses this course mainly on Bhagavad Gita. Arul Dev, who's our collaborator, he focuses on integral theory. And I used to take a section where I bring in concepts from the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavata. And essentially the essence of the course is to explore spirituality in work based on ancient Indian wisdom. So as we go along, maybe if we have time, we can go through the outline a little more. But I'm just going to pause here so that you can quickly read the outline. It's interesting when I said, when we proposed this. So I proposed this from my department, management studies, and there was a little what do you say, resistance to change maybe. And in the Senate, they were asking. Initially, we had titled this as Spirituality in Work, and the contents were all from these particular scriptures. So there was some objection. We changed the title to Integral Karma Yoga. And over the years, we have been getting more and more students interested in these two courses, self-awareness and integral karma. So this really motivated us, and Professor Shiva, who was the Dean of Students, we started floating several courses. One popular course is on happiness, habits, and success. While the course essentially draws mainly from Sean Acker's theories, but we do have mindfulness sessions, we do have meditation sessions in each and every class. So students really get a lot of things from this course. So I'm just going to quickly go through. These are the other courses on biomimicry, how we learn from nature. So that's a course that's again popular. Innovative entrepreneur, systems thinking. While all of these courses may not necessarily involve ancient Indian wisdom, but they have really done a lot of good for students, where we now have a minor in personal and professional development. So if students take 4 courses in either of these baskets, so they get a minor in personal and professional development. So when you talk about impact, these are some testimonials. One that I would like to read from Integral Karma Yoga. The course which will challenge your beliefs and lifestyles, will make you think of things differently, and will eventually leave you a better person, much more equipped with the tools to handle your life. And about self-awareness, a comprehensive learning package much required in life and starting journey towards self-actualization. So these were some students' responses. Over the years, these have been the interest that students have had for all of these courses. It's been increasing. And we have also published the life skills course in Harvard education. So all of this is there, yes. But how did we do this? Because it's a large scale, around 15 GN courses. So we took the help of the alumni who were super excited, and they were really wanting to contribute. So we found out that we had an increase in students intake for all of these courses. So we had batches. So for example, the happiness habits course has only 25 in each batch. And we used to have 10 batches in every semester. And we could not have done this without the help of the alumni who were taking care of, so 2 alumni were taking care of one particular batch. So it was like that. One of the challenges that we faced initially was, it was supposedly in IITM lingo, a peace course, which means it's not too heavy, right? So what happened, there were students who started taking up these courses mainly to get grades. And this started diluting the course. So we had a different methodology to select students. We had expression of interest, and we used to go through diligently each of the SOPs and select the students. That definitely minimized people who were not truly interested in the course. Another issue or concern that the Senate raised was in terms of assessment. So the assessment for all of these courses are very, very different. It's continuous assessment, just like any other course, but they're all assignments, obviously no final exam. And all of these assignments are very application oriented, something that they can incorporate in their life, including things that have been very effective. For example, learning journal, reflective learning journal, a diary that they maintain, and all of that. Delivery, all the classes, all the courses are very experiential. With the use of teaching assistants, it has changed the dynamics, because we have teaching assistants for all of these courses, like other institutes, but they have a very, very active role. They don't only grade. Since the classes are very small sized, the TAs play a major role in having one-on-one mentoring kind of thing. So we select TAs only those who have attended these courses. And over the years, we have scaled up in terms of numbers, in terms of contents and all of that. So I just wanted to briefly talk about these courses, which have been a breath of fresh air, honestly, for students. In the midst of all of these heavy technical stuff, they look forward to these GN courses. And the mails that we get after they have graduated several years down the lane, they come back to us and say, these are the courses that are helping them. So just like to stop here. And later when we have the Q&A, I'll take up questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure your presentation will make many of us interested to offer similar courses in our institution. And also some of us to do some collaborate with you on the impact assessment or some aspect of the research of your courses on which some research can also be conducted. So looking forward to have more discussion. Next in the presentation, as I just while introducing, I introduced Raghuji second to Professor Vijay Lakshmi, but I just noticed that in the document, Professor Payal Kumar is mentioned as the second one. So we'll go as per the order as mentioned in the document. I'll request Professor Payal Kumar to share her thoughts, experience, and she is also a co-author. I'm sure she's going to talk about the book she has just co-authored.
Sure. So I'm disabled at the moment for screen sharing, if you could just enable that. So thank you, Professor Ashish. Yes, we have known each other for decades. You're giving our age away, by the way, to the audience over here. I was Vice President editorial at Sage in a previous avatar. And then I was at BML Monterey University as Associate Dean. And currently I'm at a startup called Indian School of Hospitality. So that's my background. It's still disabled, Ashish. Screen sharing is disabled, apparently.
Yeah.
Anita.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, sure. How are you, Anita? Good?
Yeah, fine. How are you?
Okay.
You are now the co-host. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Lovely. Yeah, I'm just putting up the slides. So, you know, Professor Ashish, as I said, has very kindly invited me to this. And in fact, following on from the previous speaker who was talking about engineering students are getting a big kick from these courses. So that's obviously, integrating left brain thinking and right brain thinking. So if you can just confirm that you can see the slides and you can hear me both. Anita, good to go?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, what is the self-work required for an academic who wants to incorporate spirituality and values in management education? So that's what I'm going to be basing this on. And in fact, that is what this whole book is based on, right? It's an Emerald book just published hot off the press, which I did together with Professor Tom. I think a lot of you know these people. They're MSR related, Richard Major and Richard Paraguay. And, this is the book that we've done, which basically talks about, why are we not, business schools all over the world seem to concentrate totally on the left brain, data analytics and all that stuff is getting more and more that way. Data analytics professors are getting in such demand, for example, but the right-brained creativity aspect, values and all that doesn't really seem to be tapped in our business school education world over. And we're asking why. So in this book, we ask, basically the premise is that, we are teachers in business schools, so we should be able to, of course, first of all, deal with our own emotions and to deal with emotions in the classroom in order to develop our students further, because they're going to be the leaders for tomorrow. So, basically, with my co-authors, we used to keep talking to each other that, emotions is an elephant in the room. It's always there, but nobody talks about it, right? Nobody talks about it. So, in fact, Ashish, you'd be interested to know that as you know, I've been a publisher myself at Sage, so I know how book publishing works, and I've had 17 books published so far with Emerald, Springer, Palgrave Macmillan. But this book, the publishers had difficulty. They wanted to do it, but they were like, in which bucket do we place it? Is it management or is it psychology? And so I had to convince them, and I said, this is going to be a book, a really good book. And we got amazing chapters, and we've had a lot of traction since then. So hopefully Emerald is happy. So the book was based on culmination of 4 PDWs at the Academy, where we were asking these sort of questions. Why is it that enhancing EQ and social dexterity are not part of the mainstream teaching in business schools? So, you may have the occasional professor who does meditation in the class, as Vijay mentioned. You may have the occasional courses of some, B school or IIT, whatever, but, it's not an integral part of, curriculum. So should mindfulness practices and meditation be brought into the classroom? When research has clearly shown that it leads to stress busting and resilience and all sorts of things, such positive outcome variables according to research. So why are we not, teaching this as a practice regularly to all students in postgraduate this thing? And also teacher training, so there isn't not so much thing as a teacher training. You do your PhD and you're thrown in the deep end and you kind of learn from your mistakes and observation. You learn a lot from your students as to what works and what doesn't work. But, should we not be having some kind of FTPs where we make teachers aware of emotional contagion? So if you're in a good mood, it affects the class. If you're in a bad mood, it definitely affects the class. But do we even really think about this? Yeah. So these are the questions that we asked in the PDWs. And this year, we're going to do a symposium on this. So we got some amazing, endorsements from the 2 leading scholars in emotions. So Professor Akshan Shea is very well known. So I'll just let you read this. Just give you a minute. So he is completely endorsing what our position in the book is. And also Professor Richard Biontas, who says retention of learning from collegiate and graduate courses is abysmal. This collection about managing emotions of both students and teachers should sensitize the curious reader and provoke some new approaches without engaging the whole student with their emotions as well as ideas and values. We have little hope of motivating retained learning. So his point is, even for better learning, right, you need to tap the right-hand side of your brain. And combining the right pedagogy and teachers feeling inspired, i.e. handling their own emotions and ideas and values, is essential. So very grateful to these 2 professors who endorsed the book. So going to the topic, I mean, why are we bothering about emotions? Why are we so, interested in this? As I said, it's the elephant in the room. Emotions are an everyday part of our life, but we don't talk about it. And this topic has been addressed largely by education and psychology scholars rather than management scholars. So I think we also need to look at it quite deeply. Leaders of today need to tap both left and right brain, whereas education of today tends to develop the left brain and hyper-individualism. So it's all about me, not we, right? And good leaders of today need high, not just high IQ. So there's some coaches that I talk to, very experienced coaches who coach CEOs, and they tell me there's such a pattern, it's such a common pattern, high IQ, low EQ, right? So, the interpersonal skills are not good and they create problems with their teams, follower discontentment. So that's also something important to know about, your EQ, not just your IQ. And then, of course, we are role models. The power that we have in the classroom to shape thoughts, to, prime people, to put the seeds in there, that we may not see the results of our endeavors straight away. I think probably we won't. I mean, the immediate result is that the students have passed everything, and there's a student feedback, but the actual learning, how much impact it has had, it may take a few years to fructify. So I always tell my students that, if you have an aha moment about something I've taught you in the class a few years later, please come back and let me know, because for me, that's my very important feedback. And they do. They're like, oh, we now get this concept, and because we're doing this and blah, blah, blah. So our effect on students we can be negative role models or positive role models, and that can have a trickle-down effect. Of course, the ancient traditions of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism for hundreds of years have got this Guru Shishya Parampara, which is basically the passing of knowledge from the Guru to students through oral tradition. And it was not just, like we stand in the classroom, we teach, maybe we have some kind of interpersonal connects with our students, and then we go home and we mark stuff. But here in this Guru Shishya tradition, it was about the student, first of all, leaving home and going to an ashram, so it's like a boarding school, so that kind of environment. And the guru would teach in two different ways, which is very close to Kathy Cram's definition of mentoring. So mentoring has two aspects to it. One is the technical teaching. So the guru would teach reading, writing, scriptures, and all that. And the other is what Kathy Cram calls psychosocial development that a mentor should have, which is they teach them life skills like how to use a bow and arrow and things like that, right? So very much fits in with our modern definition of mentoring, that a technical aspect and somebody more senior, more experienced teaching the technical aspect, plus also the psychosocial aspect. So this tradition of ours in India has been there for centuries, as I said, and still goes on. So just to give you an indication of some of the chapters, got some amazing chapters, like say emotional intelligence, boredom, and student cyber loafing. Should mindfulness be mandatory in business education? So this is a question which has been asked in one of the chapters. We look at mental illness. We look at teaching as a complex system and self-awareness of the student. So one section is on working with student emotions. One section is working on faculty emotions. So reflexivity of the faculty. Maybe the problem is not our students, but us. I love this title, Developing Faculty Interpersonal Capacity, Catching Waves of Dynamic Emotions in Experiential Learning, a neuropsychological theory of faculty development, adult teachers. We did this chapter, adult teachers, by drawing on heightened instructor awareness and collaborative autoethnography, emotions in the virtual classroom. And this last but not least, very interesting chapter on art-based pedagogy in management, some personal reflections of these authors of how they used it, again, to do with emotions, values, creativity. So really amazing chapters. And here are some of the authors. They're from the world over, so from US, from UK, from India. Some very, very good chapters and excellent authors. So very happy about that. So to sum up for this session, what can we do? What is the self-work required for an academic who wants to incorporate values? So, I mean, the biggest problem that followers have in the workplace is if a leader doesn't walk the talk. So if I'm going to go on and on about values and compassion and humanism, and I don't, practice it myself, so this hypocrisy, followers and students, of course, and your own children, they pick up very quickly, right? So first we need to walk the talk, which is, enhance our own introspection. So for example, diary writing, reflective practices such as meditation and mindfulness, not just do it in a class, but actually, practice it ourselves. Acknowledgement of emotions in the classroom. If somebody gets angry, maybe we need to call it out instead of just maybe carrying on with the rest of the slides. And say, well, okay, so this point has really made you angry, label the emotion, and then maybe have a little discussion on it, make it as a teaching moment. I've done that a couple of times in the class. I made it a teaching moment. So like you give me your side and somebody else give me the other side of the argument, like that. And then of course, practicing methods to manage our own emotions in the classroom. If we get angry at something if we recognize our anger triggers. So I do a workshop on how to raise EQ. One of them is about recognizing your anger triggers. So you know that in this situation, I get angry. So if you know it, then try and work out a way in your own mind that if I get angry in this situation, what will I do? Will I take a little break, go and have a glass of water? Because obviously the best way to control anger is to delay the response, right? We may not be able to control the trigger. You should feel the anger, you should not repress it. But we can delay the response. And if we delay the response slightly, then the words that come out of our mouths are more logical and we won't regret what we're saying. And, we hopefully will be more in control of our emotions. So there's a couple of, interesting videos that you can have a look at. I'm happy to share the slides about going on outburst over a student's yawn. And in one, in America, the college flunks the entire class because he got so angry by one particular student. So you know how far anger can go. And I'm just finishing now. And so this one, we're actually, as I said, doing the symposium on this at the AOM. So I'm just going to put in the chat box if anybody wants to, if you're interested, it's just an expression of interest with all the details there, kind of an informal registration. If anybody's going to be there at the AOM, would love to have you there. So we can, there'll be a lot of readings from the chapters. A lot of the authors are coming to the symposium and are actually going to talk about the chapters, and then obviously it'll lead to a discussion. So I would request Ashish, because I've got a class, I may have to go. So is it possible just to take a couple of questions now with your permission?
Yeah, we can take one or two questions.
Okay.
Because Payal has a class to right after. So
Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, Nishant has.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, and very good session. I would like to congratulate you first. And then I had two questions. And also adding that, the anger and changing into a teaching moment was a wow moment for me, at least in this session. So,
okay, so before you ask your question, let me give you a very specific example. So there was a girl in my MBA class who was cheating. It was a physical paper pencil test. And she kept looking over to her boyfriend's script. And, so I warned her once, I warned her to a third time she did it. And I actually lost my cool. This is the first time I've ever lost my cool in the class because nobody had done a session like this for me, right? How to maintain anger and EQ and all that. So I, asked her to leave the room and all that, but I didn't want to fail her. So I asked her to write a 1,000-word essay on if you were a teacher and students cheated in your class, how would you feel? So basically to get her to empathize, so a lot of times I use things as teaching moments instead of, obviously we react, we feel angry or whatever, but then, how do you make this into a teaching moment? So I do a lot of, executive training for senior leaders, and there also the discussions are getting very heated, but again, you can very easily turn that into a teaching moment. Yeah, sorry, I didn't let you ask your question. I've got my professorial hat on, so I'm talking and talking.
I think so. You are spot on. That was actually the first question, to give an example of that so that I get more clarity.
There you go. See, I knew your question, right? Go ahead.
So yeah, and the second question is, where can we get this content from? Because the content you shared was very, very interesting. We have courses like this, but a very few in our place. So if we can get hold of this book or this paper, so are they available online or?
Yeah, this book is just off the press. It's an emerald book. So please, just maybe you want to take a screenshot. It's an envelope book. Yeah, you can buy it or get your university to buy it. And amazing chapters. And like I said, I had figured out that this book is really going to sell because that's what publishers are interested in. First time ever, I've had to convince a publisher because they got confused about psychology and management. But the flow of, abstracts we received and when we did a call for chapters, it was so fast, much before the deadline, Ashish. Usually give a deadline after 1 month, and I've done many books, people say, can you extend the deadline? But this one, oh my goodness, we were surprised as authors. We were flooded by abstract, we had to reject a few chapters. And so these are the best of the chapters that we received. So we've obviously touched a raw nerve somewhere. There are emotions in the classroom. Who talks about it? Do we talk about it? I don't know if you have any examples, any of you, about emotions and maybe somebody getting out of control.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to what you said. Similarly, my professor of organizational behavior. So a girl came late to the class, and generally I would see professors not giving them attendance or then shutting door on their face because they think they can do that. But then what this professor did differently was he asked the girl to prepare, on a book. So he gave her, option of 10 books, which are like fiction, non-fiction books, and she can just tell the summary of that book. So basically, it added more value than it was a punishment. So that was something very amazing.
A teaching moment, lovely. So I personally am against attendance, but institutions have this as a stipulation. My own personal theory is that if you're adding value to the class, students like it, they'll come to your class, right? If you make it mandatory, and yeah, you do get rowdy students, and I say to them, look, you're on your phone, you're disturbing everybody else. I give them a couple of warnings. If it doesn't work, I say, I'll give you attendance, but please leave the room because you're disturbing all the other students. Yeah. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Glad you stopped me. Professors, right? We never stop talking.
This is,
thank you.
Those who are teaching, anyway, there are very limited outlets to talk about our experience of teaching. So no wonder when your book was, there was a call for the book like this. Those who are teaching for years and observing and didn't have any outlet, and they found that, and this is certainly very timely and very appropriate, much needed. Absolutely. So thanks very much for sharing this.
Thank you so much.
So these two talks were about the classroom, about the students. What Raghuji is going to talk about is the corporate world. He has been engaged with for more than, I think he's practicing in the organization development work since 80s. So
I'm an old man now.
He's working in this sphere for since 80s, bringing the insights of Mahabharata, Indian tradition, Indian culture, and the yoga in the OD work or organization development, very relevant for the MSR, our MSR work. So Raghuji, over to you for your brief overview of the work.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks. Yeah, I'll just share with you a PPT quickly. Is that clear? Can you see the PPT?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now the question that I kind of posed myself, because a lot of stuff has been going on recently on spirituality in the workplace and several questions like this. And last couple of years also, there have been a lot of questions about work design and organization design. Yeah, unluckily, it's come after the disruptions because there was a need for this all the time. What I'm talking about is actually inspired by a very, very interesting story in the Bhagavad Gita, which is called the story of Dharma Vyadha. I'll just quickly tell the story for people who may not be aware of it. The story starts with a very interesting event. There is a person who later became very famous called Kaushika. He is meditating under a tree, and there are two cranes that come, and they are in the process of their dance, which is a courting dance, which is very loud and so on. So Kaushika gets very disturbed by it, and he opens his eyes and looks at one of the cranes, and the crane dies. It just gets burnt. So he feels arrogant. he goes to that town and stands in front of the house, he usually does, and says, Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi, with his newfound voice. The woman of the house comes in a little late, so he looks at her like that, and in Tamil, it's a very beautiful statement. She says, Kokkena Kandayo Konganava, which means, hey, did you think I was that crane that you burnt? So luckily, Kaushika becomes very humble and says, how do you know? She says, if you want to find out how I've, got here, go to this butcher called Dharma Vyadha in Mithila. He will tell you. So this guy, being a nice chap and becoming humble, goes all the way to Mithila. And as he walks towards the shop of Dharma Vyadha says, you're the idiot who burnt that bird unnecessarily. And the Dharma Patni asks you to come here and study, please come. And then there is a whole teaching where Dharma Vyadha has to look after old parents. He's doing this job to the best of his ability, and he teaches Kaushika all about dharma and many, many things. Kaushika later goes on to become a great author and so on. Yeah, so that's a beautiful story. And the question to ask is, how do we get there today? How can many of us be Dharma Vyadhas today? So one of the key things in the eternal quest of mankind is to ask, who am I, where am I, and why am I here? Yeah, and believe me, every manager I've met is asking this question. And then there is another very critical question to ask, which if you don't ask, you don't get on to the quest. And that question is, in doing what I'm doing, who am I really being? Yeah, so lots of times when people come to me for coaching and all that, these 5 questions, there's another one that says, how am I part of the problem and how do I become part of the solution, is the core to any transformational process. Yeah, and if people who have read the Gita will know, this is the Saransha of the Gita. Right? So what is the first question? Now, the first question is, who am I? Right? And this is the problem we're at today. Now, on the one hand, we talk about all these spiritual things, and then we feel that we are stuck as cogs in the wheel of a machine. Right? And we're all hoping for this beautiful space in the middle. Okay. Now, how have I applied this process in an organization? Now, some of the examples that come to my mind is I had to work with a company called EID Parry. Now, EID is East India Company Distilleries, which belong to Parry. And when I was doing the work for these people, I used to stay in the building that Clive had built and stayed in. And the cannons were still there in that building. So I'd go to this place in Nelikkuppam sugar factory. And one of the things I did was sit with the top management team and ask them to define what is the consequence of a decision they make. So they drew a picture, and the GM, who was a very strict, tough kind of guy, neat white shirts, he put down certain things, and then we started asking questions. And the entire economy and well-being of the Nelikkuppam district depended on whether this factory worked properly or not. So the next day, the GM appears, and he's a completely different person. He's weeping, and he's written a beautiful poem in Tamil. And everybody was completely surprised, because till then, he was following the British Raj kind of way of managing and would look at everybody's mail to make sure everything was in control. And he writes a poem saying how he understood what his role is and who he is. And the place changed, and EID Parry became actually one of the most successful companies in the sugar industry in South India, because many people were able to restate their role in terms that had nothing to do with the designation, nothing to do with the hierarchy. Yeah. So that, I think, is a very, very critical part of applying spirituality in work. Right? So this person, actually, the poem he wrote was what it means to be a dharmic householder. Now, I applied the same kind of thing in working with the engineers in the Tamil Nadu Water and Drainage Department, where, we went in, we did a workshop, whatever. They sat down, these engineers sat down at the end of it and rewrote their role definition. They said, we are not PWD TWAD engineers. We are people who can secure water for the future generations. And there's a film about this, if any of you want to see. It's called Writing on Water. It's on YouTube. The whole process that we went through and what kind of transformations happened. This film was done 10 years after the work we did in TWAD, because we were repeating the whole process in the agriculture department. So this is extremely critical to enable a person to answer, who am I, in dharmic terms. And what do I mean by dharmic terms? It is to answer the question, in doing what I'm doing, am I enlivening myself, my immediate circle, and the world we live in simultaneously? Yeah. And once a person answers it in a way that is meaningful to them, the way they work completely changes. And it becomes a sadhana, it becomes a spiritual quest, right? Now, the next thing that I did is then to make it more concrete. It's not enough to just have this flowery thing that, I'm doing dharmic thing. So we worked with each person and said, how can you redefine your role centrally as a commitment to add value and exceed expectations? So I'm not looking at my role anymore as part of this hierarchy hanging from something, like dead people hanging. Yeah, but I'm on the ground. I have a commitment to help the world. This role that I play is enabling me. It's giving me resources so that I can do something which I feel is dharmic. And then there are 4 critical interactions that I go through. I serve somebody, generally called the customer. So we shifted it to say, what is the seva? How do I serve this person? And then there's another very important interface where the GM, for example, suddenly turned around and said, I'm not here to control people. I'm here to nurture them and help them to work better. Yeah, so everybody has somebody who's the boss. But this is another very critical interface. Okay. Then other interfaces, people serve me so that I can delight somebody. Right? And the 4th is, whom do I nurture? Whom do I help to grow? So the moment I redefine my role this way, a lot of things start changing because there's a great deal of autonomy and meaning that I bring in to the role. And it's not defined by somebody else anymore, though the expectations can be defined. Okay, so I now become not a person like a cog in the wheel, but I've become a very critical node that is influencing value, that is being added not just in material terms, but in psychological terms, in ethical terms. Yeah, so then it became very easy to take all the role models from the Mahabharata and compare them and talk about them. So what does the Yudhishthira do in terms of using his power? So he's got the power to bring in order and discipline. You contrast him with a Bhishma, who has the same power but gets stuck with the old promise and so on, right? And then I also started working with the idea of saying that there are 3 critical things in doing anything, in any design. In the Vastu Shastra, it's called Bhogadyam, Sukadarshanam, and Ramyam. Bhogadyam is how useful is it? Sukadarshanam is how effective, how aesthetic is it? And Ramyam is a concept you don't find in any Western design. It's a very Indic concept. It's what's the spiritual delight. So for the sugar company, for example, they redefined the existence of the whole company in terms of saying we will take water from outside our ecosystem and send back water which is cleaner than the water we have taken in. They redesigned the whole system based on that. Yeah, and the central question here is, how am I valuing human beings? Can I work for zero human waste and not, I was actually at that time also teaching TQM. So the emphasis was on zero quality waste and zero this and that. If I don't focus on zero human waste, what right do I have to tell this guy to look after my resources when I don't look after him? So then each of us can look at our role and say, what is my commitment to build a regenerative world? And this also comes down to Gandhiji's statement when he's talked about trusteeship and things like that, where he says, can each of us look at our role as the center of ever-expanding circles of influence? And I've seen this happening. So the moment a person redefines their role in these terms, they start influencing people around them. Yeah. And then the third question to be able to answer and help people to answer is, why am I here, in very tangible terms? So what I did this, I haven't shared this specifically with most people because most people don't want to get into heavy spiritual stuff. They want it very business-like, but I've quietly made these shifts and some people know exactly what I've done. Like the CEO of Mr. Subhaya was heading EID Pari at that time, and he was very happy with this. Said, how do I define myself as a spiritual seeker? If I define myself in utilitarian terms, I become part of a cog in the wheel of a machine. But if I redefine myself as somebody, let's say, composed of the 5 koshas, then immediately I can look at every exchange across the 4 in terms of these 5. What is the material exchange? What's the emotional exchange? What's the intellectual exchange? Then curiosity, improvement, and finally, delight. Yeah. And all the competencies can be then put down in terms of this 4x5 matrix. Instead of just a Adobe list of competencies that we usually have in organizations. Right? Yeah. So you can then start talking about measurables and go from the tangible to the less tangible to the less tangible and so on till you go into completely subjective definitions of how I'm working. Now, one of the other things that is critical is, there's a design principle. This is from the Vastu for people who know it, that it's not just that I'm acting in the world because all the time I have to deal with the marketplace. So the more I practice what I've said before, asking the 3 critical questions and the 4th one inside, in doing what I'm doing, who am I really being, it becomes possible for me to enter the marketplace from very different spaces inside. Usually, we are entering the marketplace from an avidya kshetra, which is an entropy. I'm fighting, I'm competing, and all of this. That only makes the whole place worse and worse and worse. Yeah, and it's very simple. Every time we've signed a peace treaty in the world, people have gone back to discover how to make even worse bombs. So the worst bomb that was dropped is not Nagasaki and Hiroshima. It's the neutron bomb that people developed after signing a peace treaty. So you go back and you behave like a virus. Yeah. So if you start defining yourself in the terms I'm talking about, you start acting from a dharma kshetra. Yeah, you start asking the question, how do I enliven and not how do I extract? And then you can go into much deeper inner coherent fields. And when I really touch deep inner coherence, I behave like a cell. I don't behave like a virus. So the question I ask myself when I go into anything is not what's in it for me. I ask a question, how am I placed in the whole? And what is my way of enlivening the whole? Yeah. And maybe one can touch something beyond this, but at least you start the journey going inward. Yeah. And one of the things I'm hoping will happen is that we start defining human beings in honest terms, not in terms of social being, this, that, and the other. If you look at the crisis we are at today, we have to clearly say we are waste generating viruses. We've eaten up the earth just for ourselves, but we have the potential to be divine. We have the potential to behave like cells. And I think unless people take this redesign of their own role seriously without waiting for organizations to redesign, we cannot move to a regenerating earth. Yeah, so all the work that I'm doing now, we're working with a very interesting company called Paka, which does packaging, which is recyclable and things like that. They're clearly coming in with a dharmic intent. I'm working with Auroville on the same idea. So in organizations which are already willing to use the word dharma and spirituality, it becomes easy to introduce this. Obviously, in Auroville, it's very easy because their stated purpose is to see how there can be a human evolution. But I'm hoping that all of these pilots that I've done, we can put together in a much more concrete way and work with it. Yeah, because whatever I've been doing now, I've been doing only with organizations I've been consulting with. Yeah, some of this I've shared in a book of mine, which I wrote with Gagandeep Singh, called, what was it called? It was Sage publication, by the way, Payalji. It's called Organization Transformation, a Tensegrity Mandala. That was high speed, Ashish. Hopefully I communicated.
Yeah. Actually, towards the end of your talk, the whole ambience became a little meditative. So I didn't want to disturb that. Thanks very much. I hope your presentation will inspire the young scholars to look at OD from the consciousness angle, and they can also do some research in a more interesting ways, and that can contribute to the existing body of knowledge. Thanks very much. Now we have Vinayak ji. Vinayak ji's tapa and his sadhana and his project has been of phenomenal use. He is a co-author of a book, Indian Knowledge System. He collated a lot of wisdom and insights from various fields in the form of a book. He will talk about that and how the IKS field is emerging and being embraced in India, and what is its potential in terms of contributing it to the contemporary knowledge system. So, Vinayak ji, please go ahead.
Agajanana Padmarkam Gajanana Mahatnisham Anekadantam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchit Dukkha Bhag Bhave. Pranams to all the scholars here. So actually, there is one saying in Sanskrit that Guroha Sthane Shishyaha Yajya Kulani Gatva Agrasanadini Labhate. That means in place of Guru, when Guru is busy, his Shishya goes to the Yajna Sthana and gets the front seat and all. That's exactly what my situation here is now. Actually, Mahadevanji was to be here, but he was busy and he asked his Shishya, that is me, to go and present. So whatever good will be given, that is coming from him. And if something which is not relevant or not takeable, then that is from me. So I want to put the disclaimer and move ahead. So I remember him saying one beautiful story, which I really want to render wherever I go. I put this story ahead. That once upon a time there was a beggar who used to sit on a big box, and that box was locked. And though many people were saying that he used to go to those people and ask, what should I open this box? And they used to say, you are a beggar, what will be there in that box? And after his death, some people tried to open, and when they opened, they found that whole box was full of treasure. Exactly what he is connecting with the people of India. He's trying to connect that with the people of India. Though we are not in that situation, luckily, but he says that it was our situation that we are actually sitting on such a big box full of treasure of knowledge, and the people from different agendas, they say that don't open this box, you are beggar, what will be there in this box? But luckily we are not that type of people who are not interested enough to open and see what is there. We opened and saw. So we have that, we know that we have good number of treasure in our Indian knowledge, which we can use and we can progress in the field of, in our in various fields. So this is the story which he usually, wherever he goes, he tells, and I follow him because to present this. So my journey, when I started my education, I started with the grammar, Paninian grammar. I studied Paninian grammar in Sanskrit, traditionally I studied. So 22 years of education is now there with me. So when I joined this area, means Paninian grammar, when I started studying, there was a time when there were two different zones, like CK, contemporary knowledge was going one way, Indian knowledge was going another way. There was no bridge between these two. Though there were people working on the areas, but they were like hidden people. They were working on in a hidden area that was not open. I never knew that Indian knowledge system has so much to contribute to the modern areas also. But gradually, when I started, even after joining as a professor, I didn't know. Joining as a lecturer in Vyakarana, I didn't. But it was Mahadevanji who pulled me to this hurricane task of making Indian knowledge system as a part of general education. He told me, no, it's required. And to be very frank, I was not confident enough to say that I can do such thing. But he was the man who pulled me and said that, no, let us do something. And to Chinmaya, when he became the first vice chancellor of Chinmaya Vishwavidyapit, I was the first faculty there. And we two joined together, and we three of us joined together and started this course called Indian Knowledge System, which was a foundation course. And gradually we built that course. He made me read Arthashastra, Ayurveda in depth. I was a Paninian, I read Paninian grammar, and he made me read this Arthashastra of Kautilya. He made me read Ayurvedic texts. He made me read the Indian Vastu Shastra, Indian Shilpa Shastra. So the way he works, he's the person who leads with example. That's why we also felt like reading too much. The first session was taken by him. Initially, I made only some few slides, which was, for me, it was good. But when I saw his slide and his way of presentation, like I was like, what the work which I have done is nothing. Then I had to spend tireless nights to reach to his, at least try to reach to his level, to teach the students. So that was how it worked. Then after 5 years of teaching IKS in colleges, in universities and various places, Mahadevanji got a call from AICTE that we want to make Indian knowledge system compulsory in all the technical institutions. So please come up with a book. And Ministry of Education also supported in this. That is how this thought of coming up with a textbook got initiated. AICTE came up with this plan. Now that the book is ready, now AICTE is planning to have FTPs, faculty training programs at 6 different places of India, where they are for first round, they are planning to train 1,000 faculty in Indian knowledge system. And then gradually they want to take it to 1 lakh. That's their number. That's their plan. Now UGC has also come up with the thought that 10 credits of the whole curriculum must focus on Indian knowledge system. Also, UGC has come up with the NET in Indian knowledge systems. NEP is focusing on knowledge tradition of India, Indian knowledge. You'll find 30% of whole NEP, in 30% of the education, they want Indian thoughts to be integrated. So this is what in whole of India, what I just generally I am giving some examples, how Indian knowledge system is seen in India and how it should, what type of works are going on. A lot of works are going on. Many centers have been established. AICT, IKS division of Ministry of Education is funding those. Many projects have begun. But there's one small issue which is still there to be addressed. Now, India is looking Indian knowledge system only as Sanskrit, which should not happen. Every language has lot of information, lot of knowledge hidden in it. That should be unrevealed. How to do that? That is in process. Because if we keep on saying that there are only Sanskrit subjects, then there's a huge number of people that IKS is on who say that IKS is only Sanskrit, which is not the case. Indian knowledge system is something which generated in India. In Akhanda Bharat, there are many languages in which knowledge has been generated. Like in Kannada itself, if we in Tamil, Sangam literature is there. In Kannada, we have Siribhu Valaya. There is one text called Siribhu Valaya, which is in Kannada, which speaks about history, which speaks about social science, which speaks about political science, which speaks about yoga. But the beauty of that text is it's in numeral form. For example, if I have to write Rama, then he has connected it with some numbers. Ra equal to 2, Ma equal to 3. So he wrote whole of the text. Jain Muni has written this text in some 15th century. And that whole text is in numbers. The person who can decode it, he or she can understand that text. And it's in Kannada. So Kannada language has text. Then in Telugu also we find, in Marathi we find. In Braj Bhasha, we find the Maharashtrian Shambhaji Raja wrote the texts on this public policy in Braj Bhasha, the Hindustani language. So this is the huge repository which we have. We have to unreveal it. We have to bring it as a project. So we have to take it as a project and present it. Now, how to bring it in a curriculum is the question. So there are different ways, 7 ways which we identified for last 7 years when we are working. We identified 7 different ways of bringing it into curriculum. One simple way is putting it as a compulsory foundation course to all, for which our textbook which we worked on can be useful. Compulsory course on Indian knowledge system so that everyone can understand what we had in our India. Second possibility, because when we offer it as a compulsory course, there's a possibility that student may not take it. No, the student may not like it because something which is forced, it's not taken. So we can make it optional. That's the second possibility. Now, third way in which this can be done is integration of course in a program. Like if we have management program, we can offer a course like leadership concepts in Indian knowledge system. Or we can offer supply chain management in Indian knowledge system. That can be a module. Supply chain management in Indian knowledge system can be a module in a course called supply chain management. If there is any course on supply chain management, then supply chain management in Arthashastra can by itself can be a small module which can be offered. So that is like offering that's like integrating Indian knowledge system as a module in a course. Now there's another way like offering it as a minors, a set of courses, 6 courses, 6 4 to 24 each can be of 4 credits if we want to offer it in that way. Then Arthashastra can be one stream, Indian health system can be one stream, linguistics can be another stream, Indian scientific heritage can be one stream, Public administration can be a stream. So there are possibilities of different streams which we can put, which we can offer to our students. Then this is about how we can integrate the Indian knowledge system in curriculum. In research, there's a possibility of interdisciplinary researches and also the researches in the discipline. Like if somebody is working on management, what are the management theories we can get? Because in India, in Indian knowledge system, we don't have anything called Indian management thing in ancient texts, because we never saw a knowledge as different entities. We always saw one knowledge. Whatever is supportive to that knowledge, everything came together. We brought everything together. In Sangeeta Ratnakara, we find the verses related to anatomy, the nervous system. In Nyaya Shastra, we find the concepts related to physics, philosophy. Ayurveda, we find the concepts related to Rasa Shastra, that's chemistry. We find the topics related to botany. We find the topic related to zoology, anatomy, everything we find in Ayurveda. So this is how it was built. So there is one saying, jack of all trades, master of none, by Shakespeare. But that's not the complete thing which we always see the first line, and we always teach our students to not to be the jack of all trades and master of none. But the whole verse, which I think I tried to find out from the website, that this line goes in this way: the jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. The person who is a jack of all trades is better than a master of one. That's the full saying by Shakespeare. But we always touch the first line. And also there is one beautiful, now I will like to conclude this session, because it will take a lot of time if I keep on explaining these things. So there is one beautiful shloka by Sushruta. With this I will conclude. Ekam shastra madhiyano navidyat shastra nishchayam tasmad bahushruta shastram vijaniya chikitsakaha. Though this is told for an Ayurvedic practitioner, but it is applicable for all. Ekam shastra madhiyana, the person who studies only one discipline, navidyat shastra nishchayam, he will never able to understand or go in depth into that discipline. So the person who is in the discipline, he must have heard many disciplines. He must have read many disciplines to get the proper understanding of his own discipline. For example, if a Chikitsaka, Ayurvedic person doesn't know how the corporate world works, he will never able to treat that person. If somebody is coming from that area who is working in a corporate area, he's coming for the treatment, this Ayurvedic practitioner does not know what is happening there, how the people work, what is the type of work they are doing. He will never understand the nature of that person, and he will not able to treat that person. Similarly, the public administration person, if he doesn't know about economics, he doesn't know about foreign policy, then he will never able to understand the public policy aspect. So that is the reason why our ancestors always focused on understanding various disciplines, learning various disciplines. So Indian knowledge system actually encourages to do that, to be the jack of many aspects. With this, thank you for presenting my thoughts here, though my guru would have presented in much better way, but still, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Just a quick question, Ashish.
G.
Yeah, Vinayak, one of the things we might have to discuss is the very way of categorizing, like you said, is not Indian. If you categorize knowledge as business administration, this, that,
yes,
the other, it's not Indian. And by doing that, we'll be cutting our feet. If you have to do Indic knowledge systems,
yes,
you have to do horizontal things. Like, for example, I'll take the last thing that you said. If you're doing Ayurveda and you say one of the critical things in Ayurveda is helping a person in an organization setup, then you set up a whole course that is horizontal.
Yes.
Which is understanding various things. That is how one can build up an Indian knowledge system.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's very critical. I'd love to have a chat with Mahadevanji on this, because if we get stuck with the current, we had it. That is one.
Exactly. That's what Indian knowledge system is about. That's what I tried to give the examples, saying that we had Nyaya Shastra, we had Jyotish Shastra, but nothing focused on one
but
area.
The current systems don't allow this, Vinayak, so that has to be dealt with.
Yes.
Right. The other is terminologies. Yeah, I'm sure you're very aware of this. The moment you start converting a verb-based language like Sanskrit into a noun-based language like English, you get into huge problems.
Yes.
So it'd be very interesting to know how you're dealing with this issue. How are you confronting this issue, where all the keywords, all the technical words, like dhyana is simply translated as meditation. In the Yoga Sutra itself, in each place where the word dhyana comes, it means something slightly different. It's nuanced. Same thing with samadhi and so on. Yeah, so one more question to look at carefully is, how are we nuancing the meanings of these words, which are extremely critical?
Yes. So in our book, what we did,
I'd love to have a dialogue with you people at some time and see how you're doing it, because if this is not done, we will translate things into the current context, and in doing that, we will kill the original.
True.
Thanks very much. I think, Vinayakji, this is like what Raghuji is saying is, this is for us to take forward this dialogue. We are aware of the book, and it is really thankful that this book has happened. And thousands and lakhs of people are being benefited by this. And it is going to be translated in multiple languages. It's going to happen. But this is the next thing what Raghuji is suggesting is important. And we all are together in this journey.
Yes.
IIT Bombay, we are in the process of setting up Indian Knowledge System Center. And I think the starting point, Raghuji, will be that in our center, you would like to follow this method of classification, not the one which is kind of a force fit on the existing vertical. This is at least, this is my kind of a simple, this is something which we can immediately take up. So thanks very much for bringing it up. I hand over to Anita, because she is the super anchor, and time is already, we have already surpassed the time. It only shows the intensity and the interest of the speakers and audience. It's a very, very useful. To me, whatever has come up is sufficient for me to keep busy for next 5 years. And I'm sure all the participants must have got something which can keep them busy for many days and maybe years. This has been the potential of this discussion. So I can only express my gratitude to be part of this and to hold this space. Anita, over to you to take forward.
Thank you so much. A sincere gratitude to all the panelist members. Yeah, because I must admit that there is so much to learn and a long way to go. And it's very nice feeling that Indian knowledge system is again being talked about in colleges and schools all over India. So it's nice to see that young generation are getting this knowledge, which we didn't have when we were in schools. So yeah, it's thank you everyone for this wonderful session. And next we have another session, which is a scholarly presentation by our scholars, Sadhana and Nitika. And please do join us after half an hour. Thank you so much.
So this link will be on, so we can continue our discussion. I just wanted to honor the timeline. So this is the formal ending, but we can chit chat. And I see Jyoti ji, who has been a great friend and a supporter of the Indian knowledge system and the indigenous Indian management remaining in US. So thanks very much for your work and keep inspiring all of us.
Thank you. If you want to stop recording, that would be okay.
Yes.
It's been an inspiring session. I've just been absolutely mesmerized.